Renowned British economist Jim O'Neill, known for coining the BRIC acronym, has lauded New Delhi on hosting the G20 Summit, calling it a huge diplomatic victory for India. O'Neill, who serves as a senior advisor at UK's think tank, the Chatham House, spoke to our diplomatic correspondent Sidhant Sibal. Watch.
Mentioned about G20. Now, what's your assessment about the Delhi G20 Summit? How big it is a diplomatic victory for India in the international geopolitical scenario or sphere?
Well, it was, but of course, the dispute with Canada is threatening to overshadow what appeared to be quite a very successful diplomatic success for Modi. In the background to the G20, and because of Russia, but also because of the growing and worrying disputes between the US and China, many people, myself included, were worrying that the G20 would struggle to function. And in fact, there was some fears there would not even be a communique at this G20. But not only was there a very long communique, but also, of course, there was the very, very interesting decision to add the African Union to make it effectively a G21. And I think there was obviously some very clever diplomacy going on between senior G20 Sherpas in Washington and New Delhi, which made all of that possible.
For the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, how big it is a diplomatic victory personally, if you can talk about that?
Well, I think it was a huge diplomatic victory, and it tended to suggest that Modi treats the G20 more seriously than he treats the BRICS group. But it also suggests that India has this very, very clever ability to navigate good relationships with the West, as well as good relationships with the so-called emerging world, and managing to navigate the very difficult global geopolitical situation between the US and China. And as I say, if it would not have been for the dispute with Canada, which does threaten to overshadow all of this, I add again, it was a great success for Modi.
How do you see one of the key outcomes of the Johannesburg BRICS Summit? That is the expansion of the grouping. Today, BRICS is BRICS 11. Do you think expansion is a good thing for BRICS, or do you think that this will be something that will be a cause of concern in the future?
I am disappointed by it for a number of reasons, but there are three basic ones. First of all, since they became a political grouping in 2009-10, the BRICS leaders have not really achieved anything. Partly because of their own differences, which perhaps we'll discuss more, is particularly true, of course, between India and China. But they don't seem to have got beyond this very powerful symbolism as being a group that doesn't involve the US and is constantly bemoaning their lack of representation in global governance. The second reason is there was no objective guidance as to why, for example, in Africa, Ethiopia and Egypt became members, and a country which is much more important strategically, economically, demographically, Nigeria, was not. And why in Latin America, not Mexico, but Argentina. And it seems like a very ramshackle group of countries that were chosen rather than any real strategic, obvious reason. And then the third reason is the simple one, is that if you expand any group of countries trying to supposedly agree policies, as we see with the G20, the more you add, the harder it becomes. And so I'm not quite sure, other than this really big symbolism, quite what the expanded BRICS is supposed to be trying to achieve.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.